Breaking in right now with some news of a stolen vehicle pursuit that is underway right now. We've been keeping an eye on this as it looks like the car's slowing down. We know so far that the one is the stolen vehicle. This is near the Downey-Norwalk area on the 91. But the weird thing as we sort of jump in here with CHP in pursuit, Hunter, is that this car it's on the freeway, but it's slowing down.
It does appear like it was in the middle of the lanes, really going quite fast. And then all of a sudden, it was like right when they saw CHP on their tail, they kind of moved into the right-hand shoulder of the road and just kind of started to take it easy. I mean, it's an interesting coast we're seeing right now as they travel down the freeway.
But at least the rest of traffic, and this might just be because you do see 3 CHP vehicles directly behind, there really isn't much traffic to speak of. So even as this car goes 40 to 45 miles an hour or so and veering off toward the right shoulder, maybe this is the end. It's now getting to the 25, 20 miles an hour. I'm curious as to how this will wrap up, if it seems to indicate that direction, because right now, normally when we jump into situations like this, vehicles are flying at 80, 90, if not 100 miles an hour. So this, you know, fingers crossed that you hope this is the end, but it's curious based on the location of where it is right now.
It almost appears that it's trying to pull over to a safe space, like it's being like you're just conducting a normal traffic stop. But that's certainly not what we saw just, you know, even 3 minutes ago. That car was going quite fast down the freeway, weaving in and out of traffic before CHP seemed to catch up. As we see that CHP officer get very close to that blue car right there, we can assume that they are saying, you know, trying to get this guy to just safely pull over and at least, you know, surrender before they pick back up. But it does appear it's going faster now.
Yeah, speed's picking up at least a decent bit right now. The other thing we don't know as of right now, we do know that it's a stolen vehicle. We don't know how many people are in besides just the driver. It could just be the driver, could be more than that. But as of right now, that's what we're still working to figure out. As you see the on-ramp traffic sort of slow down and veer off and just
exiting.
give the way here. It looks like the exit is Clark Avenue. So we'll see as speeds are slowing down just a bit, but kind of. We were worried about the rain, too, in terms of visuals. It's actually sort of cleared up for us a little bit here. So there you go. It looks like has its... all right. So
said it was going to go left, had its little left blinker on. And
I didn't know if that was a reflection of something else. But, all right. So now we're on surface streets, and here's where we start to get a lot more nervous based on previous situations that we see a million times over.
Well, and obviously, if you've been out and about across Southern California, we've had a lot of rain today. So a lot of the streets, you know, it could be flooded and could pose another concern. It looks like these are pretty dry right now as we see this car kind of take off through these surface level streets, but it looks like their brake lights are on. We've seen them slow down a couple of times, even on the freeways. So it is an interesting, you know, kind of stop and go type attitude right now as he takes that left turn there on Flower Street and Clark Avenue. Kind of unpredictable to see this guy's behavior, speeding up, slowing down, and then exiting the freeway.
Yeah, and there's not, you know, normally in some situations we would ask our experts or wonder if a pit maneuver or anything else would be used in situations like this, especially with slower speeds and an ability to have that. But obviously safety of others has to come into play too here, because I haven't seen a lot of people out walking about, and that goes back to the rain, right? Not a lot of people are going to be taking a walk out when it's been pouring all day. But right now it's slowing down to 10 miles an hour and making a right here. Let's see what happens, but it almost looks like it's just a line. Those CHP vehicles right behind this this blue car, and we're just kind of following along in a line. Nothing overly over the top at the moment. Yeah, which we did see him going pretty quickly earlier when he was on the freeway blowing through that stop sign there. Also important to note, Gio, some of the things that we do not know is, you know, what exactly led up to, you know, the stolen car situation, as it looks like he's coming to a stop here in the middle of the street in the Downey-Norwalk area, taking another left-hand turn. I mean, the one thing that he has going for him is that you're right, there are not a lot of dog walkers or people, you know, on the sidewalk right now because it's just such a dreary evening. But it is curious to see him go so slow. And it is in a residential area. As you can see, all the front yards, all the homes, all the cars parked in their driveways, and even cars on the opposite side of the street just sort of waiting as everybody sort of makes their way through. So normally we have questions about, is this an area that's familiar to someone, familiar to the driver, to the suspect, and maybe they're looking for an avenue to ditch the car and run away, or maybe switch it out, or, you know, run into backyards, because you have all these avenues of quote unquote escape, even though we know that things are pretty handled pretty tightly right now as you sort of refocus and see where
Try to see what way he goes.
went. And is right
Appears
there?
he's,
No.
Nope, going left.
Okay, so it kind of stopped right in front of that building, right? And just kind of.
Well, and once again, if you're just now joining us, stolen car pursuit here in the Downey Norwalk area. We are seeing a bit of weather, so that's why our screen isn't quite as clear as it normally would be on a clear night where we're not dealing with rain, as we see that guy just blow through the intersection there. No telling if it was a red light or not, but he's been making those very slow left and right-hand turns through these neighborhoods and streets. And Gio, you just talked about the cars that are parked on the streets. It's causing him to have to slow down, but it is also something CHP is taking into account because of course their number one thing is the safety of the public and not wanting to put anybody else in unnecessary danger. But it does appear they want to get this guy who's accused of stealing a car. We don't know if there's other crimes connected to this case, as you see him there get right back on the freeway.
So now, I mean, we'll see how, because initially, if you're just joining us, see now traffic is more prevalent than it was before.
Yeah.
So it's gonna, if we start veering in and out of traffic like we normally see in pursuits, and you add the variable in of the weather, that's where it starts getting even more dangerous than it already typically is. And it's hard enough to see when you have bad weather on the roads and how difficult it is to drive for so many people in bad weather. Now you add this into it, it could be a potential disaster. You just sort of hope it doesn't ever get to that point.
And it's stressful too, right? You're worried about the rain. You're, driving down the freeway already trying to stay safe, and then you just see all these CHP officers. We saw, quite a few more a little bit earlier. Now we've got what appears to be two. CHP, the lead agency here, we know that they're very aggressive, or can be, on these kind of pursuits. They really just want to obviously stay with this guy, but it is surprising as they pick up speeds here, as we see the rain in this part of North Long Beach get a little heavier than what we saw in the Norwalk Downey area.
And right now we're on the 91. This is where the pursuit initially started, or at least when we initially broke in. He was on the 91, I believe going westbound at the time, though we can double check that at some point, and then took the exit on Clark Avenue, got into the Downey Norwalk area, hung around those surface streets, residential areas for a bit, and then went back on the 91. So we sort of circled back to where we initially started, and this is what we're talking about, right? With the weather, and it's so hard to make out what's going on. Obviously, you see the lights from CHP, and I'll be honest with you, it's kind of hard to tell where exactly the pursuit suspect is right now.
At this point, you can't see I mean, it's a blue car that we're watching, but even in this area, because of all the rain, you can't even tell, what color any of these cars are. The only distinguishable factor here is, of course, the CHP lights. We've seen some people put on their hazards as they try to figure out what's going on. But Gio, did we see that other officer turn his lights off, or is he just out of the frame?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I had the same reaction and response. You don't see him. Yeah, he might have already veered off, or they might have reassessed their tactics here. Though I wonder now if is that it?
Is that another wreck? I mean, again, we're seeing so much rain. It could be a completely separate incident that we are just having to pass here as we watch that CHP officer in the middle of your screen there. What we appear is still following.
Yeah, I think that might just be a wreck. Honestly.
Oh, there goes CHP. The second one turned his lights back on.
Okay, so there
right
you go.
ahead of him.
So we have two still in pursuit. And forgive us as we continue to follow along here, because it's obvious that it makes it that much more complicated, keeping an eye on what was a blue vehicle. We know that the want was a stolen vehicle. We don't know if there's anybody else besides just the driver in that car that they're going after right now. But obviously the dynamics of safety and everything else is already increasingly complicated when you're in a pursuit situation, but now add on the complication of weather, and how, even just an hour ago, we were in our 5 o'clock newscast showing on cars hydroplaning and ramming into each other.
Without a chase.
Without a chase, right.
It's just normal driving.
That's just trying to avoid stalled cars, and then it gets into a crazy situation. So obviously, and weather, of course, we have to bring them into account for SkyCal as well, because, we have to be careful with the safety of the crew and everything else, just in case that becomes something to monitor. So,
and also important to note, I saw that CHP officer pull off of that and exit. So it could be that they've terminated this pursuit simply because it's just not safe. But of course, we're going to continue to track this for you. The pursuit of a stolen vehicle here in the Downey Norwalk area. If we have any more information for you, we will of course bring it to you as we get it. Thanks so much for joining us here for this break-in.